There you go. Well, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Welcome to 2023, or as the young people call it, the Jordan year, right? 2023. And I'm here with the fellas on my favorite time of the week. It's happy hour. It's Wednesday night at 8. And we're going to chop up sports in the past week. But before we get started, I have to say hello to the fellas. And this is my first opportunity to say that to them in 2023. And I'll start with Mr. Burnett. Mr. Burnett, I hope you had a wonderful holiday. Happy New Year. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year to you and your family and your son and your daughter, everything else. And I hope everything's going well in the nation's capital as it is here in the sports capital
of Indianapolis, Indiana. And Mr. Larry Abels, Happy New Year. Hope you had a wonderful holiday. Now, Larry, I don't know where you are. So wherever you are, I don't know if you are home, back from where you took some time off. But I just want to say Happy New Year to you. And where are you, or what's going on?
Well, Happy New Year to you and David. I'm happen to be in San Juan at the moment, enjoying the nice warm weather down here. I heard it was pretty nice at home too, but
it is
probably not quite this nice.
Yeah, the weather almost killed us the day before Christmas, and now it's 60-some degrees. Weird. Hey, listen, unfortunately, another member of the distinguished panel, Mr. Rush, he may join us later, and if he does, we'll just keep it rolling, okay? Now, without any further ado, let's get into the week of sports. But before we do that, I want to spend a second, obviously, and kick it off with the NFL and the unfortunate situation with Damar Hamlin, the safety for the Buffalo Bills, the second-year pro, and the unfortunate situation that has happened to him. I think I heard some positive news late today that he is starting to get some oxygen. So the prayers, and everybody around this country and the world is praying that he gets better. So I view that as good news. And I just would love to get you guys' thoughts on your reaction to it and anything you'd like to mention about that. And I'll start with you, David.
It was shocking. But I'm not surprised that at some point something like this did occur. That said, I don't know if football is to blame per se for it's almost like it was a freak incident because the tackle wasn't vicious.
Right.
He was the tackler.
Right.
And the tackle wasn't vicious, and he got up and he fell back. It almost seems like it could have happened at any time. It's really sad. Stopping the game, historically, you just keep on going. I come from a city that embraces racing, auto racing, and guys got killed at the Indianapolis 500, and the race kept going. Right. I'm not saying the game should have continued being played, but I think we are conditioned as a viewer to see everything continue regardless what happens. So those who say folks are insensitive, I don't know. I just think historically we just keep moving, and there are just too many incidents where we keep moving. Now, would the game have been stopped had it been the Super Bowl? Now, that's a big one, and then one day the Super Bowl may face that. So it's very tragic. Yeah. Let's hope and pray that he can recover. Whether he plays football again I think it's irrelevant.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's really irrelevant.
Yeah. Mr. Abels, did you have an opportunity to see this or yes, some of the highlights or lowlights from that situation?
Yeah. I saw it. My opinion of it is David is correct. It's somewhat freakish. I mean, he's the second player. He had a heart attack. We don't know for sure whether it was caused by the impact. I've heard some experts say if it was caused by the impact, it would have had to happen at a precise time in 40 million milliseconds. But even if it was very unusual. As we were talking before the broadcast, it happened to a player back in 1971, little over 50 years ago. So very rare. Football in general, though, is a very violent sport, and we essentially decided we would accept a certain level of violence. And you guys have heard me say before, anybody can get hurt at any level. What you've heard me say before is college players should be paid because they suffer traumatic injuries from playing football too. Pros decide that this is the business they're going to go in, and if they get hurt, they do get workers' comp, and
Sure.
they make millions of dollars. But we've decided that we can accept injuries. This one was particularly shocking, but I really think next week it'll be business as usual.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's interesting that we saw this and the country has reacted the way it's reacted. And I don't know, when there's tragedy, it's amazing how we come together. However, I will tell you, there are guys who've played that game and now they have some CTE issues or their bodies are beat up. And I don't know that the National Football League takes care of them either with workers' comp or what have you. So maybe this gives the National Football League Players Association an opportunity to use some leverage and maybe get the billion-dollar owners to do something with the post-career of some athletes in that sport who need help. I don't know what else to say it.
One thing that they could do is reduce the number of years that a player is eligible for pension. I think you've got to play 3 years to get a full pension. Maybe reduce that if you get a year in, because football at the NFL level is vicious, brutal, and potentially fatal.
Agreed.
And these guys have built up, probably been playing from Pee Wee League football, junior high, high school, college, a lot of wear and tear on people. By the way, you talked about what happened before 50 some years ago. It was Chuck Hughes, player for the Detroit Lions, game against the Chicago Bears, 1971. I saw that game and the player on the field laying there. But you know what? They did finish the game. I know it was only 60 some seconds left, but they did finish it. And I'm not arguing the game should be finished. Right. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we have been conditioned as viewers and as fans to keep playing.
Yeah.
That's what's happened in most cases.
Yeah.
Chuck, I want to make one more comment. Observation that I've had with other friends besides you guys, prior to running into you guys. I told some friends of mine about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a few more years than that football players need to learn to look out for each other. Not talking about the game Monday night, but most of the time when they try to tackle somebody, they don't wrap up anymore. They just try to blow them up. And you see a lot of missed tackles, and they just come in with all they have and just try to blow people up.
Right.
And they need to think about each other.
Yeah.
We talk about a brotherhood, but it's not that way when things go on.
Yeah, some of those rules some of those changes have happened in the rules with the spearing and leading with your helmet and that kind of thing. But it's a tough game. It's a tough, and most of the NFL camps went back today to actual practice. And I can't even imagine the defensive coordinator out there on that field today saying to his defensive players, hit him, tackle him, get him down. It's just in light of what happened. So,
just a thing, and maybe you guys experienced it when you were younger as well. I was taught to tackle leading with my face mask and wrap.
Yep.
Face mask into the chest, wrap. Well, you can't do that anymore. But that's what we learned. And many of us who played ball of a certain age, it's only been about 10 years that they've even begun some level of reform.
Look, I've watched football a long, long time. The fellas have watched football for a long, long time. And except for the incidents that you referred to, both you, Larry, and David, I was sitting there with my aghast at what I was watching, and it went on for hours the next day, and the whole country was just transfixed on this thing. So hopefully things will get better. We're pulling for Damar, and let's hope this weekend of games we can all get through it.
One last comment, Chuck. Mm-hmm. If something happens, God forbid, this weekend, in the NFL. If something negative happens that approximates that, that could put a kibosh on football for a while, because suddenly, the politics of everything is so different now, and there will be pressure to ban the sport if something happens again in a certain amount of time.
People's appetite for something like this, I don't know. Stuff. Oh, look, let's get into the games. Let's talk about, I want to focus, there's 3 games I want to focus on this week. And of course, you all have the right to, if there's a game or two or something else about what happened over the weekend that you want to talk about, we can get into this. But I want to focus on 3 games. The first game I want to focus in on is Tampa and the Carolina Panthers. And the reason I really want to focus on that game, I thought Tom Brady was the GOAT again. He looked spectacular, especially in the second half. Maybe not so much the first half, but that second half, he was terrific. And that was a big game for Tampa. If they won that game, they won the NFC South, they get to the playoffs, they get to host the team. And I thought he was amazing. 34 for 45, 432 yards, 3 touchdowns, all to Mike Evans, and no picks. So I just like to get y'all's thoughts. David, I'll start with you. What did you think about that ball game? Or have you had any
I was watching that, and I was watching Red Zone at the same time.
I was too.
But when Brady threw that first touchdown, because they were struggling, and Tampa Bay is not that good this year overall, and Tom Brady has had some struggles. But once he hit that first touchdown pass to Evans, I'm like, I caught myself saying, Tom Brady. And then again, Tom Brady.
They all look the same.
He just, he's not as athletic as the other guys, but something about the way he plays, he knows when he throws guys open, and he's got ice water. He's really, really effective. Now, should he keep playing at 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50 years old? Probably not. But damn it, he's really good.
I thought Carolina was playing them tough, as you mentioned, David. And Tom, just once he hit Evans the first time, he kept it going. Larry, did you have a chance to either see some highlights or see any of that game?
That's the game I saw. That's the game I saw that was broadcasted. I thought both teams had something to play for. I know Carolina had an outside shot at making the playoffs, and they played like it. I think both teams showed up and played. Unfortunately for Carolina, I think that they faced a lesser opponent, or let's put it this way:
quarterback.
Every now and then, the GOAT. You may have heard me say that I think he's over the hill, but every now and then they could pull it together. Those few. 1 or 2 times, and this was his time when he needed a big game, not just in the fourth quarter, but most of the second half, he was the GOAT.
One time, I'm not lying, I was watching closely. He looked to the left, and he did it on purpose. It was almost like he was looking that safety away, and he knew he was going down the right side to Evans, and sure enough, Evans beat his man somehow, strike. And when I say strike, I mean, Evans didn't even have to he didn't even have to slow down. It was just perfectly placed there. And he did it 3 times. And I thought, I don't know. For some reason, I was very impressed by that.
Happy New Year, Reggie.
Yeah. Hey, Reggie, thanks for joining us.
Reggie, hey, listen, Sanders, my man. At some point, we got to get Reggie on the show. He's been clamoring to get on. And Reggie has some interesting ideas about
Make it happen, David.
He's DC.
He's a DC guy. Okay.
Make it happen
on the show.
Yeah.
We'll get you on the show, Reg. We'll get you on.
So let me ask you this question. Of course, I'm going to show my Dallas thing. But it looks like if things play out, Dallas will go to Tampa. Tampa will host that playoff game. Can Tampa beat Dallas? Larry?
Yes.
Let's start with you, Larry.
I wouldn't bet on it. I think Dallas will beat them. I think Dallas will beat them. But, of course, if it's close to the fourth quarter and Tampa has the ball, they'll have a shot. But if I had to pick a game there, I'd pick Dallas in that game.
Even in Tampa. The reason I bring that up, I was kind of course, I'm a little hard on Dallas, but I was shocked by this. Dak Prescott leads the National Football League in interceptions. He's got 14.
Yeah, I know he has a high number, yeah.
And he leads the National Football League, and he's missed some games. So I was a little surprised by that. That's going to be an interesting matchup if, in fact, the two of them meet in Tampa. But some other things have to happen this weekend, like the Eagles have to beat the Giants, and then Dallas has to beat the Commanders. So,
but one thing about Dallas, their defense has not played well the last few weeks.
Giving up some points, haven't they?
Yeah. But it would still be hard for me to pick Tampa over top.
Right. David, what you think? Do you think that if Dallas comes into Tampa for the first round of a playoff, given both histories of the Bradys and the Cowboys, do you think Tampa can beat them?
Tampa can beat them because they're playing at home and they have Tom Brady.
Yes.
But Dallas beats Dallas most times.
Damn.
How many times have Dallas won a playoff game since 1995?
Maybe one.
We can go back almost 30 years.
I know.
The futility for Dallas. Dak Prescott is the one who can win the game. But he throws so many interceptions. But, a lot of interceptions this year is 14. Most years, a lot of interceptions. You remember when, what's my man?
Goff? No.
Winston.
No.
Jameis
Winston threw 30 interceptions. One year, Peyton Manning's rookie year, he threw 27 interceptions.
Wow.
So, the standard for quarterbacks, because it used to be quarterbacks with a good passer rating would throw about 55% completion rate. That was considered acceptable.
Right.
Now, if you're anywhere in the 50s, if you're anywhere in the low 60s, you're not considered an accurate passer. Anyway, Football's changed.
Yeah.
Let me digress. Go ahead, Larry.
So we'll see what happens. So the other game, or two other games I want to focus on. The second one is Green Bay and Minnesota. As soon as we thought Aaron Rodgers was done, he has led, or that running back or whatever has got the Packers back in the mix. And they demolished the 12-4 Minnesota Vikings. So just want to get your thoughts, Larry. Did you have an opportunity to catch up on any of the highlights or articles on the Green Bay Minnesota game?
Yeah, this was just like I was at home, except for I got a different main game. Okay,
my bad.
Okay.
Well, before you get into it, hey Richard, thanks for tuning in. How you doing? And Happy New Year, my friend.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Richard.
Yeah. Go ahead.
With respect to the Vikings, they just seemed about to be the most uninspiring team. They got a lucky win with Buffalo, but when they really have to play good teams, like Philadelphia beat them by 17, Dallas beat them by 37.
We should have beat them. Washington.
Green Bay had something to play for, and it seemed like they took it out. It shouldn't have been that bad, though.
Right.
So I don't know what to think of them. I think they have the ability to beat any team on any given Sunday, but the bad news is just about any team can beat them as well.
Right. No, I agree. It's funny. This guy Jair Alexander, he's a corner for Green Bay, number 23. He was talking smack all week about he's going to shut down Jefferson. Which, by the way, he's like the second coming of Randy Moss, and he shut him down. He held him to one catch. David, what did you think of that game?
Well, I'm not going to pile on Minnesota. Minnesota is Minnesota. They will disappoint you. They've disappointed ever since I've been watching football. How many times they go to the Super Bowl? 4, lost 4. That's Minnesota. Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, I can't stand him. I can't stand him, but he's damn good. And his attitude, he's got that old man type of approach to things now. And I'm tired of him, but he's good. He's good. Minnesota will let you down. Green Bay is Green Bay. They have one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen. Yeah. So it's possible. Now, unless you ask Aaron Rodgers to try to sprint into the end zone
at a critical time in the game.
And he won't, Well, that's when it
Right.
disappoints you. But
It'll be
anyway,
interesting. I think if Green Bay wins this weekend, they're in the playoffs. And I don't think 3 or 4 weeks ago we thought
well,
they were.
Mr. Aaron Rodgers said they would take it, and they might.
Right.
They just might relax.
And they've switched to, they have a balance. They're running the ball more. They're more physical now. And so I find that fascinating.
Well, Chuck, just so you know, the thing about it, 4 weeks ago, they needed to win all 4 of their games. So if they win this week, they'll do that. And they needed Washington or New York not to win more than 1 game. Washington has won 0 games. So that's why they're eliminated.
On a side note, I heard Washington is now starting. They're not going to start Wentz, who they never should have did last week. They're not starting Heineke, which I guess is a good backup. They're going to start the rookie, Sam Howell. I think his name is Sam Howell. So they're going to start the rookie against the Cowboys this weekend. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, if we didn't have a heavy DC audience here, we probably need to keep that out of the show.
I know. All right. Well, that leads me to the final game I wanted to discuss, and that was Washington and Cleveland. And the only reason I want to discuss that is, look, I mean, that game was winnable. It was at home. It started really for me a week before when they had the Giants come to town when we had the bye week. Our defense is good. We're running the ball well. We should be able to beat the Browns. They had nothing to play for, and we laid an egg. So I just wanted to get your thoughts. And Think start again with you, Larry, because I know how you feel a little bit about the Washington Commanders, like I do. We kind of like them. Do you think they should have started Heineke over Wentz? And B, what went wrong with us the last 2 weeks?
Hindsight, it certainly looks like Wentz shouldn't have started. I could see why the coach started Wentz. Beforehand, afterwards, he 3 interceptions. You certainly don't want that. Right. But Heineke was turning the ball over twice every week. And then they wouldn't commit to the run, even when they were running over people. So, I'll go back to those games against the Giants. When Robinson was getting 7 yards to carry, he can't get the ball in the second half. So I think they just had a total. And then I read an article in the Washington Post where Turner and Rivera saying, we would have liked to have given Robinson the ball more against the Giants. I'm like, are you guys watching the game? Right. So I think they're just not good. They didn't deserve to make it.
Right. How about you, David? Any thoughts of that game? I know.
Yes.
You have Washington ties as well.
Let me just start with Carson Wentz.
Yeah. Oh.
He can't handle pressure. We saw that here in Indianapolis last year. Philadelphia saw it when they essentially let him go. With Carson Wentz, anything bad can happen. He's lost his confidence. He was a good player for a while, and then it just dropped off the map. And sometimes that can happen. It looks like it might be happening to my boy Russell Wilson. Sometimes you get to a point, boom, it's over. Everybody can't be Tom Brady and play 20-some years effectively. Carson Wentz can't play a couple of years without it falling, falling through the hole. So Cleveland, Watson is still kind of getting himself back together. Cleveland is building for next year.
Yeah.
And they're a better team than the Commanders.
Do you think Wentz
really
Chuck, just like
let me finish this.
Okay,
what's really wrong with the Commanders is the owner. Until the owner's gone, till Dan Snyder's gone, they're never going to be much of a team because something's going to happen. My bad. Go ahead, Larry.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. The other thing I was going to point out to you, Chuck, people in Washington, from our perspective, probably looks at Cleveland as a winnable game. I think if we lived in Cleveland, we probably look at Washington.
Right. I thought I was really looking forward to the Dallas-Washington game this weekend, for a playoff shot. Was going to be meaningful, and we got nothing out of that. Anything out of the National Football League? By the way, David, Russell played a little bit better. I know they lost, but they played a little bit better this weekend. So
Well,
I don't
he's
know what
lost
that
a little
means.
on his fastball. I'll put it
Right.
in baseball parlance.
Is it-
He's lost a little, and I think he's lost a little confidence. It's going to take him maybe another season to kind of regain an understanding and be more confident. Because when he hurt that finger, everything's kind of
Right.
been iffy since then.
And a new coach that fits. Anything about the National Football League in addition to the things we discussed? Anything you guys wanted to touch, make any comments about?
Sports Doctor is just about to
Oh, I
come
love
on
it.
in.
I love it.
Sports Doctor.
Happy New Year, Sports Doctor. How you doing?
I'm doing great, David, Charles, Larry. Got messed up on BWI, man. I hate BWI.
Right.
I'm not
Well,
go ahead.
we're glad you're here, though. We really are. So welcome. Happy New Year. And we're going to turn the page from the National Football League, Earl, unless you have anything you'd like to add about the National Football League from the past weekend.
No, I'll be honest with you, Charles. I just got in the door.
Okay. So
I don't know what you guys have talked and have not talked about, so I don't want to be redundant. I just have to take it from here. I don't know.
Well, cool. So we're getting ready to get into the National Basketball Association.
Have you guys covered the NCAA yet?
No, I know we have.
Okay, all right.
Hopefully we'll run out. Hopefully we'll run out.
He was hoping you were going to get in.
It's funny, Earl. I'd made the mention to the guys. Maybe we should cover the NCAA football right away before Earl. Before I know.
It wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't
I
have
know
mattered.
you'd have brought it up. All right, we're going to get into that. Earl, can you just kind of save your joy for a couple more minutes? We'll get to that, okay?
Of course. It's not no joy. It's just what it is. It's not a joy.
All right. But right now, let's get into the association. I gotta tell y'all, it was
Hold on, Charles. Did you guys say anything about the Commanders?
We touched on them. Yeah,
We just finished it when you came on.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad we covered it before you arrived, quite frankly. But yes, we did touch on them.
Wow.
But we cut them up though, Earl. We took our shots at them. So
Okay.
We
right.
stated
So
the
about
obvious.
the association. Do you have something you'd like to add about the Commanders?
No. Let's start the year off right with a lot of positivity. We don't need to be throwing bricks at people and things like that. So let's move on.
Well, let's talk about the association. I'll tell you something. I found it an interesting week. I don't know if I watched more NBA this week or something. I don't know. But I'm telling you, they are scoring buckets in the National Basketball Association. It is amazing what is happening. I mean, just this week, Spider Mitchell, he had 71 points. By the way, I want to see if I can stump the group. How tall is Spider Mitchell, or how tall is Donovan Mitchell from Cleveland?
6'3".
6'2".
6'2". He's 6'2".
Yeah, he's 6. They list him as 6'1", but I was surprised to see him. I thought he plays bigger than that to me. I thought he was bigger than 6'1", 6'2". But anyway, he had 71. Luka this season, not this week, he had 60, 51, and 50. Embiid has had 59 and 48. Anthony Davis has had 55. Last night, your guy, David Giannis, he looked good too. Against the Wizards, he had 55.
The world's greatest player.
Siakam from Toronto's had 52. Booker has had 58 and 51. I mean, Clay, I watched him 2 nights ago. He had 54 against Atlanta. By the way, I think that's the next coach that's going to get fired, but that's neither here nor there. And even LeBron this past week has had 47 and 43. So, distinguished panel, what in the heck is going on with the NBA? I'll start with you, Larry.
Well, I think scoring might be a little up, but I think this has sort of been happening,
Like this?
Yeah, not 71, but people getting 40 and 50. It's not
60.
that unusual.
Yeah.
40 and 50 is not that unusual. I mean, it's kind of 71 was up there, and this week seems to be a little
weird. Right, I agree.
And even Embiid, you mentioned a couple of things by him, but he's got a number of 40-point games, So I guess guys are shooting. And even when I went to see Embiid play the Wizards last week, he got like 48 that night or 44.
Right, he did.
And didn't shoot any threes. He's playing like down low and just pounding them down there.
Right. David, do you have any thoughts about the scoring, especially this last week or for the season? Or do you, like Larry, agree is not as unusual as maybe I think that it's going on?
I think it's somewhat unusual that you have so many high scores. I think that's part of the issue. But the NBA game is different. It has evolved. Remember, it wasn't that long ago. 10 years ago, here in Indianapolis and all over the NBA, they were talking about rim protectors. We had Big Roy Hibbert, a DC native, Georgetown player, blocking shots, clogging up things. We don't play that game anymore. The game has changed fundamentally in just 10 years. And I think that's part of it. And the three-point shot is come into vogue more than it's ever been. They're better shooters. The game moves faster. They're getting shots off much quicker than they used to. So I think, they're probably getting shots off maybe 2-3 seconds faster than in the past. And I think that attributes to scores, collective team scores of 110, 115, 120, 130, sometimes even more points than that. When back in the day, in the Roy Hibbert days, a high score would have been 99 or 102. So the game has fundamentally changed.
Last night, the Oklahoma Thunder, Thunder, they played the Boston Celtics. And Gilchrist didn't even play. And they beat the Celtics, and everybody for the Celtics played, everybody. And they beat them 150 to 117 in regulation. And 5 guys on the Oklahoma team scored over 20, and I don't even think I recognize those names. And so it just seems that the scoring is up. Earl, do you have any thoughts about the scoring or this past week, or is it just caught my attention and it's been going on and I just hadn't noticed it? Or any thoughts on this?
They always score 40 and 50-point game, maybe not 70. Man, nobody plays any defense anyway. I don't know why you're so shocked about these scores. If you look back in time, they always score 40 or 50. Like I said, maybe not like 70, but nobody plays any defense in the NBA anyway. What do you expect? Who can protect somebody?
David, I agree with a point David made, a really good point, which is there is no rim protector back there. I watched Atlanta and Golden State the other night. It went to double overtime, and they just kept beating people off the dribble, going right to the bucket and scoring. There was nobody back there to help.
There's no rim protectors back where?
For both Golden State and Atlanta, there were just no rim protectors. So the skilled players would just take guys off the dribble and go right to the bucket. There was
aren't there some rim protectors in the league though?
I don't know, Earl. That's
Miles Turner here in Indianapolis is considered a rim protector per se, and he's always in the top 2 or 3 in block shots.
They got at least 7 or 8 of them. So
not like that. Not like the past, though, Earl. Not like the past.
Yeah, there's some, but it's more of a perimeter game. But I even go back to the Wizards game I saw the other night when I said Embiid didn't even shoot threes, but the one guy that Washington has, Gafford, he got foul trouble trying to guard Embiid. I mean, he was like putting him in and then when he went out of the game, he was just really crushing him down low.
And though I was getting ready to say, and though I like him,
6'10", something like that.
I don't think he's 6'10". I think he's 6'8".
I think he's 6'7", 6'8". I think he plays big, but I don't think he is big.
Yeah, he throws people's shots away, but he couldn't mess with Embiid.
Right.
I mean, he got foul trouble so quick.
He's too small, man. He's too small. My question to you guys, and I don't think you have an answer to, is why are every week some team is getting some supposedly good team is getting beat by 40 or 50. The last 4 weeks, somebody's got beat by 40 or 50.
Golden State lost a game recently by 45 points or something ridiculous as well. Your point is right, Earl. And like I said, Oklahoma City lost the other, beat the Celtics big time.
I think if we did some research, or if the NBA or ESPN or anybody did some significant research, maybe some of those blowouts that Earl is talking about are a reflection of maybe a team having a real high percentage of three-point shots going in on a particular day. They're hot as can be. Remember, there are more three-point shots that have been taken than at any other time in the history of the NBA. And they're hitting them. Guys are growing up, and I think Curry is part of that too. Curry is idolized, and kids are like practicing 3-pointers and getting better and better and better at shooting at distance. And I think that has an impact in the game.
Golden State shot 60 3-pointers in that game I'm talking about against Atlanta.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a 3-point shooting game now. I mean, I remember a game I saw last year when Washington was playing Denver, and Washington was up by 1. Denver had a 3-on-1 fast break.
And went outside.
Bradley Beal stopped the ball, and they passed it to a guy on the wing instead of somebody cutting to the basket. And they shot a 3 and missed it. I'm like, don't you know the score? But I think they're so accustomed to just fanning out like that.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. By the way, David, your Pacers are playing really well this year. Like you said, there's like 40 games into this. We're almost at the halfway point, and the Pacers are doing pretty good. They're ahead of 4 or 5 teams in the East, and I didn't think that would be the case.
Well, I don't think the Pacers thought that would be the case either. But Tyrese Halliburton has been an absolute joy to join that team. He came over with Buddy Hield from Sacramento at the end of last year, and he's meshed perfectly with this team. They only have a couple of players left from last season's Pacers, but somehow, and Benedict Mathurin, the rookie that they drafted, he's been spectacular. He's been rookie of the month a couple of times already. He may end up being rookie of the year. So the Pacers have a collection of wing level players who like each other. They are getting the ball to each other, and they're becoming effective. They weren't expected to win more than 20-some games this year. They already have won about 20-some games.
Nobody told the players that, David.
It's just a good team. And Halliburton, who leads the league in assists and is averaging 21 points a game, I don't know what Sacramento was thinking letting him go.
Well, they picked up Sabonis, and Sabonis has helped that team too. So it's a trade it's a trade that has helped both clubs, quite frankly.
Well, that's true. Sabonis was very good for the Pacers, but what do? You had Sabonis and Miles Turner, and they were kind of clogging each other up.
So listen, gentlemen. So let me, Earl, did you have any? Did I ask you anything? Anyway, I might have.
No. Early in the year, 2 years ago when we started this show, we did come to the conclusion that everybody's not going to be asked the same question all the time.
That's true.
David and Larry covered it sufficiently, so it doesn't really matter today.
Well, I'm not finished though with the associate. I want to start with you. Give me your top 3 teams in the East and in the West. Top 3, East and the West currently, in your opinion.
In the East, I would say Boston and Milwaukee and the 76ers.
Interesting.
In the East. And in the West, I would say Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Memphis. God. Who else is Memphis playing against? Oh, New Orleans.
Yep.
Memphis, New Orleans. And I don't even know why. I don't know whether I'm some type of bias or something. I hate Denver and I hate Jokic, but Denver's the third.
Those are the top 3. Good. Yeah.
Yes.
Your top 3. David, how about your top 3 in the East and the West?
I got to put Milwaukee back up at the top, Boston, and the Brooklyn Nets. And I hate to give Brooklyn Nets any credit, but they've won 12 straight games, and I can't argue with that. Kyrie, at some point, we know is going to have a blow up. Durant is going to be pissed off at something at some point. But right now, 12 straight wins is 12 straight wins.
They are 18-3. They're 18-3 since Kyrie came back from that suspension. 18-3.
Well, you got to give them credit for that.
I do.
Over in the West, I would say Denver, Memphis, and I'm not going to put New Orleans in there. Your boy Zion, You
He's
know,
out
Larry
again.
always says I fat shame him, but he's injured again. He will be out for nearly a month.
Right.
It always happens.
Hey,
I'm
Dave,
sorry.
Dave, guys that weigh 100 pounds and 5 feet, guys have perfect shape. Everybody catches a hamstring, so don't attribute that. Don't attribute that
well,
because
I
he's
hear you.
overweight.
I hear you, but Zion Williamson needs to lose weight, and I've been saying that, and I'm fairly confident, based on what I think I know about sports. If he was 20 pounds lighter, he wouldn't have had the hamstring pull. That's just how I feel about it. I'm tired of him.
And then you just don't like him, and you're fat shaming.
I don't like him.
Anybody,
No, I don't like him.
Okay, but don't be silly. Anybody can catch a hamstring. You don't have anything to do with what you weigh. Or anything.
Well, yeah, I probably caught a hamstring, and I'm 66 years old.
Larry, what do you think of your top 3 teams in the West and in the East?
In the West, I have them pretty much like they're ranked Denver, Memphis, and then the Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
In the East, I guess it's pretty much the same: Boston, Brooklyn, and Milwaukee. Brooklyn has also won 16 out of their last 17 games, so it's hard to go against them.
They are playing well. I know teams like Cleveland is lurking as well in terms of a team that you got to keep an eye on and so forth. But those are probably the top teams that you guys mentioned there. How about player? Just give me your number 1 player in the East and your number 1 player in the West.
This week or for the season?
For the season.
Okay, for the season, I'll take Giannis in the East. And in the West, well, I guess I'm going to have to go with Jokic.
I know. Go.
Now, let me back up. I'm
Okay.
going to go with Luka.
Yeah.
In the West. I'm gonna go with Luka.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out, am I missing something?
Well, he is a back-to-back MVP, dude. Denver or Joker.
So was I'm not trying to start no trouble. So was Steve Nash, and he didn't deserve it both times either. Jokic didn't deserve it both times there, 2 years in a row. Come on, get out of here. It doesn't have anything to do about whether he's a European or whether he's an African American or anything. He just was not supposed to get it 2 years in a row.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay, we got it. So who does your number 1 player in the East and your number 1 player in the West, Mr. Go-Go?
Right now, I hate him too, but I'm going. It's hard to take someone over Giannis because Giannis just be urinating on people. But
okay.
I probably would say Tatum.
Tatum, good.
I'm struggling. I really want to say Giannis, but I'll take Tatum.
Yeah.
Because that boy is a problem.
And how about the West?
In the West right now, I would say John Morant.
Good. I mean, you can't go wrong with him either. There's so many good players. Well, look, let's quickly get into the NCAA real quick.
Forgot me. You forgot me.
Oh, David, what's your best player in the West and the East? Oh, sorry about that.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the West. I know we hate to give him credit because he can't jump. He just does everything fundamentally sound. Yep. He's 7 feet tall. He can do it all. I can't argue against him. And if he wins MVP again, he deserves it. He's just that good. In the East, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo again.
He looks so good.
Jason Tatum, I think it could be one of the guys, but Giannis is just ridiculous.
He looked so good last night. It was amazing.
I think he had 3. In general, everyone looks good against the Wizards.
The Wizards, they're playing better too. Anyway, and speaking of hamstrings, Bradley went out again last night with a hamstring.
He had heard it at the Philly game I was at.
Right.
He probably needs to lose some weight.
So listen, before we wrap,
I think Booker has one too.
Right. Before we wrap up the show, let's quickly talk about the NCAA football. We had 2 good college football games, I thought, over the weekend. TCU in Michigan, Ohio State and Georgia. This host picked Michigan. This host picked Ohio State. I was dead wrong. There's a distinguished member of our panel, Mr. Earl Go Rush, who picked the other two teams. And so we're going to start with you, Earl. What were your thoughts on both those games? And were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised by the outcome. As you had stated, I did pick both of the winners. And David is absolutely correct. I obviously do have a Midwest or Big Ten bias, but what can I say? The Big Ten's horrible.
No.
Wow. Earl, that you know both those games could have gone either way, right? I mean, they could have gone either way.
And you know I'm a stat freak, and you know there's been at least 7 times in the last 10 weeks where I said we're not playing horseshoes. Almost don't mean nothing in football. It means nothing. What they almost won that game? What does that mean?
No, you're right. You're right.
Shit.
Mr. Abels, do you have any thoughts about those two games?
Entertaining, but you know what? I like defense, and I didn't see any defense by anybody.
I know. What has happened to defense?
Yeah, a good game to me is like 30-24 or something like that. You know, it was like, but I mean, entertaining. I thought that the TCU Michigan game might be close. It could go either way. I was surprised by how close the Georgia Ohio State game was. I know for some people on this panel, close doesn't mean anything, but I expected that game to be a blowout.
I did too. I didn't. I didn't expect that.
I expected Georgia to blow them out.
Right. Mr. David, what did you think about those two games?
I have a Midwest bias for the Midwest, and Michigan should be playing Ohio State. Both those teams blew the game. And Earl, I'm gonna mute you.
Oh boy.
I will mute you. Let me just say this: Ohio State should have won the game with the field goal. How wide left can you be? He was like kicking it to the sideline. Number two, Michigan, you can't throw 2 pick sixes and expect to win. They threw 2 pick sixes. If it was only 1 pick six, Michigan is a winner.
They were first and goal at the 2. They were first and goal at the 2, and they tried some stupid reverse, which never made no sense.
That was horrible.
Ran the ball
horrible.
And then they fumbled the ball on the 1-yard line. I mean, they had 535 yards of offense against that TCU team, but they lost. So
let me just say this about the upcoming game, though. Don't sleep on TCU. Georgia can be beat. They've had several close games this year, and TCU has all the motivation in the world. I expect, provided there's not something freakish happen, I expect TCU to give Georgia everything that they can. I really do, because they got players. They've got players.
Well, who do you predict, David, to win that game?
I don't have a prediction. Let me just say this. I want TCU to win. My daughter, of course, wants Georgia to win, but that's neither here nor there.
Larry, who wins that game, the national championship game?
Georgia.
Earl?
Why do you want TCU to win, David? I'm just asking.
Because I'm tired of Georgia. I'm tired of the SEC, and I want them to get their asses kicked.
Okay.
That's what I want.
I might pull for TCU, but that wasn't a question. Georgia.
I hear you.
Earl, who wins the game Monday night? Georgia, TCU.
Yeah. I don't need to get dramatic or have some snide attitude or anything. It's obvious that Georgia's going to win this tournament.
Well, listen, that pretty much covers the things that I wanted to talk about this week. Of course, the panel was fabulous. You guys were great. But before we sign off, I want to go around the panel and see if anyone has any closing comments. And I'll start with you, Mr. Barnett. Anything?
I want to send a shout out and well wishes to my favorite all-time tennis player, man or woman, Martina Navratilova. She's facing 2 forms of cancer, breast cancer and throat cancer. She's our age, gentlemen. I've admired her from the beginning when she came over from Czechoslovakia, which is now the Czech Republic. She's had so many struggles, and she's been such a humanitarian. I want the best for her. 167 singles wins, more than any man or any woman. She's a fantastic human being, a tremendous tennis player, and I hope that modern medicine will heal her.
Well said. Well said. Larry, you have any closing comments, my friend?
Yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to a Washington D.C. Athlete who's been Chuck. You'll love this, and I think you'll agree with it. The LeBron James of his sport, Alex Ovechkin. He's moved into number 2 in the all-time scoring.
The great 8.
And he's about the same. He's about 37 or something like that, and still on top of his game, just like LeBron James. So let's give Alex Ovechkin a shout out, and hopefully he'll catch Wayne Gretzky on the way.
I agree. I agree. Good one. Mr. Rush, do you have any closing comments?
Yes, I would like to give a special splash out to all the loyal Commander fans. I'm not trying to be funny.
We already have been.
No, I'm serious. I really give you guys a shout out. Seriously, I mean, the loyalty is like none that I've never seen, except for the Dallas Cowboys fans. I mean, there are people who still go out to these games, these hard games. I just want to give a shout out to them for their loyalty. That's all.
You know, on Sunday, they had Joe Gibbs there. They had the Hogs there. They rolled out the new mascot, which was pretty silly. And they let an egg. So I hear you. Good.
Hey,
good
what happened to Joe Gibbs when he came back the second time around, guys?
I think they made the playoffs a couple of times.
Did the Beathard leave?
No, he did, but I still think they made the playoffs a couple of
Did
times.
he leave the second time that Joe Gibbs came around?
Beathard left in
Yeah,
1990.
he's been gone. Yeah.
And they won the Super Bowl the following year with a lot of players that Beathard has picked, but they haven't been able to pick players since Beathard has been gone.
No.
But that wasn't the second time that Joe Gibbs came back, though.
The second time Joe Gibbs came back was in the early 2000s.
Right.
that's
Beathard
not
wasn't
what-
there. Beathard
So
wasn't
Beathard-
there.
after Steve Spurrier.
So Beathard wasn't there, and that explains what happened to Joe Gibbs. Okay.
Right. I
Well, let's just say this real quickly on Joe Gibbs.
Joe
Joe
Jackson
Gibbs
did.
2.0 was not a very good head coach. He just was Joe Gibbs. That's all he was. If we're being real, he was not that good of a head coach on the comeback. He was thinking NASCAR. So
Okay.
anyway, and that's
Well,
nothing against Joe Gibbs.
Right. So
is
listen,
it a possibility that maybe his talent had diminished? I mean,
I watch coaches.
I agree with you, Earl.
I watch coaches.
you know,
and-
there's never gonna be no line like the Hogs. You know, we all,
I agree.
we all understand
That was they had like 5 starters and 2 reserves that could come in and play any position. They did. Second time around, they had like 1 defensive tackle and he would get hurt. That was it.
Joe took the money.
Big difference.
Joe got a check.
Oh my
Joe got
God.
a check.
well, listen, that concludes our first show of the new year. You guys were outstanding as always. We appreciate all the folks who tuned in tonight. Thank you very much. And on that note, I'm going to say good night. Thanks for joining us.
You know what, Dan?